Well, that was rather interesting.
Gentlemen, thank you.
It's nice to know the man involved in the goal is as confused as all of us about this whole thing. Let's bring Graham Poll into the conversation. Look, Graham, before we get into the actual decision and whether the decision was right or not, let's just talk about where this leaves VAR, because this is a Manchester United game in the FA Cup. There would have been worldwide interest. The whole world would have seen those wibbly-wobbly lines on the telly. And we all know that perception is key in this sort of thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, let's be honest. We think they got the right decision, and that's the most important thing, and that's what the boys at Stockley Park, the VAR people, will stick to. We need to clarify as well. Clear and obvious is when we're looking at a handball, a foul, or whatever. Offside is now defined very clearly is right or wrong. Someone's either offside or they're not. There's not a clear and obvious error situation with regard to offsides. So that clears that up. If it's proved that Juan Mata's knee was half or 1/100th of a millimetre offside, then he's offside. There's no benefit to the attacker.
Now, what's hard for us is to know exactly what they're basing their decisions on at Stockley Park, where they make these decisions. All that we see is what they allow us to see, and this is what we saw. So let's just show you the way this whole thing worked out, and you can talk us through it if you can, Graham. And this is the first thing that is so confusing to people: is why on earth there are wobbly lines on the screen. I mean, that's just no use to anyone, is it? That was the key problem here.
It was, and we were seeing these lines being fed to us from 4:45. 45 minutes before kickoff. So we're seeing a technical issue. Now, we are told that that's the pictures that they're using, and then afterwards we're told maybe it isn't. So it's quite confusing to know. We can only go on what they're sending us, and what they're sending us has made it very, very unclear. And very confusing. It's so close. It's such a tight decision. We need clarity if we're going to do this, because, as I say, let me tell you something. A referee hates going away from a game when we're talking about a refereeing decision. You don't like it. You want to be talking about a great goal, a great save. And all we're talking about from this match, which was a good game of football, we're talking about VAR.
Graham, this should be relatively simple as well, shouldn't it? Because this is a fact, as you've rightly said, it's onside or offside. We haven't even come to a subjective one yet. This is why, for offsides and for mistaken identity, for red cards, I'm all in favour. But we're not even talking about subjective ones yet for the penalties, because that's, again, whoever's in control of the VAR could get that wrong. And there's so much debate. We're having debate here over a factual decision, onside or offside. But that kneecap is offside, so you would say it's come to the right decision. But how long did it take? It's not even subjective.
Well, and that's the problem, because you can't. I mean, Juan Mata said it himself. He celebrated a goal. It's a wonderful thing to do. I mean, I've never been that fortunate position to score a goal in front of a crowd like that. I've disallowed some wrongly, which doesn't help, but I've never scored one. And to then have that taken away from you after a minute or however long the review was. I know it took us 8 minutes to get it right. So very, very difficult. And as we say, unsatisfactory.
But the frustrating thing, and if we take a look at the decision with the straight lines, you can very easily say that actually, looking at it, once we get through this, is that Juan Mata's knee looks like it could be a millimetre offside, and that's not going to be the conversation in tomorrow's papers. That's not, is it, Paul? That's not what we'll be talking about.
No, that's what we're talking about. The trouble is, I think they've got to the right decision. It's just the amount of time and the confusion to get to that decision.
Well, it took us 8 minutes to be sent this. And this was what we were sent. And even then, we're not really sure whether that's actually the correct frame. So we created our own. You can probably argue that maybe there is a kneecap offside there. So that's what we were sent by the officials. And this is our own version. And again, if you squint and get close to the telly, you can probably make a case for a kneecap being offside. But again, it's taking a long time to get there. And we're now in this position where we had the issues with Willian at Chelsea, we had the amount of time it took to get to the right decision at Liverpool, we've had today, but then by the same token, we did the Leicester game where they made the right decision with Iheanacho and it worked. So it's very hard to defend and to say that we're ready for this for every game from next season. Someone's going to have to make a decision, Graham, very quickly about where we go for next season, aren't they?
They are indeed, and of course we've got a World Cup in between then and now when it is going to be used, and I can't see anything but mistakes and delays, and what we're looking for is an enjoyable game of football. And the one thing we were worried about with technology was it spoils the flow of a game, and from what we're seeing, that's the case.
All right, Graham, thanks for clearing that up for us, really appreciate it. Where does it leave you feeling about VAR, Paul?
I can't understand why they haven't spoken to the rugby league lads. what they do there, I think it's perfect. The fans are involved with it as well. They can actually see exactly what's happening. And with now, we're just so much confusion. We don't know when he's going to look at VAR. Okay, he did his symbol today, which we obviously knew, but then there's no participation from the fans. We just no idea what's going on. And I think with the rugby league, it's I did a conversation with the people who run the rugby league. I don't know, but it's definitely worth doing because they've got it off to a T.
The crucial thing to remember is this is a test. This is about learning, but that could have cost Manchester United a place in the FA Cup quarter-final. It didn't, but it could have done. They've got to be very careful, haven't they?
Yeah, it could have done, but, you know, by the letter of the law, it's correct. So whatever happens, they've come to the correct decision. Jake, before today, I was a fan of it. I was a fan because I would think offside or not. There's so much confusion once again, and we haven't even gotten to subjective issues about penalties and stuff, which, again, whoever's in charge of the VAR will make that decision. So for me, I'm not a fan.
And among all this, it was the correct decision from VAR in the end as well. All right, look, thanks for now. There's plenty more still to come. FA Cup tonight is coming your way right now. We're live until 9 o'clock. We've got the draw for the FA Cup. We've hardly spoken now about Huddersfield. We'll talk about Huddersfield. We'll hear from Jose Mourinho. We'll take a look at the goals from this game. Let's say that is it for the conversation on VAR, and we'll see you in 2 minutes. Stay where you are. That's what we all want. That's the problem, isn't it? VAR that's always right and is always true. And normally the issue with VAR are those incidents, we are going to talk about, normally those incidents which are subjective. The issue today is having all this furore about an offside which shouldn't be subjective, should it?
No, we should have just been able to get to the answer straight away, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
The fact that the lines were like this was just comical, wasn't it? And I had to talk about it thinking that it's going to happen.
Yeah. And
the fact that there was so much waiting around, and of course as soon as the lines goes out, you can imagine what the people are like watching it on the telly. It just became an absolute shambles, wasn't it? And to talk over it was really confusing.
We only get those pictures.
Yeah, of course,
we choose what we're given. It took 1 minute 40 seconds to make the decision on the field. It took a further 8 minutes plus for us to be sent from the VAR team a decision with a straight line. That is the problem, and Jose is quite right.
Yes.
Let's talk then about the football. It's one of those strange days where Romelu Lukaku bags a couple of goals. He's gone over 20 for the season, and a few people are talking about it. What did you think of his personal performance today?
Yeah, I thought it was very good, and there's probably a difference between the two teams, really. He didn't have a lot of the game, I don't think. He wasn't involved a lot, because Huddersfield were very good in possession. They were excellent, but his 2 chances he had, he was deadly.
Just very clinical, Scholes, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Very, very clinical. I think that's all you can say. I thought Huddersfield were excellent, but this is a really good part of his game. Holds up play, spin, turn, and then this is just about strength, isn't it?
And the goalkeeper? Or is that just Romelu being clever?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like
Praise
to think
the
it was.
striker. Yeah,
it's good play from him.
The pitch up like that, he can go left and he can go right.
We need to see more of that from him, because the power and the speed of him, he needs to run in behind a lot more, and today he was very good. The last few weeks we haven't really seen it. Maybe he lost a little bit of confidence, but here again, I think he starts out in his own half, and look at him, he's off. And just defenders, especially defenders of this level, they can't live with that. Yeah. But then he's got to find the clinical bit, and he's
That's
done that
what you want to see from Manchester United as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they had to play that way today. They had to play on the counter-attack because Huddersfield was so good in possession. As good as I've seen an Huddersfield team, to be honest with you. And the only scraps were playing on the counter-attack. And you had to say, every time United went forward, they did look very dangerous.
Well, let's talk then about Manchester United's approach overall. For the first sort of 40 minutes, it was confusing to kind of see the plan from Jose Mourinho. And you two had a really good chat in here about what he was trying to do.
They've won the game first and foremost, and as Lukaku's 2 goals was brilliant. But they're that 4-3-3 shape, so they had really 3 holding midfielders. McTominay, Carrick was in the centre, and Matic on the left. And they had Sanchez on the left up front, Lukaku and Mata. So the problem was down, and I'm sure I thought Maka said in commentary, was down this right-hand side. Hadoganaj and the centre forward pulling out wide. So what happened was that for me as a midfield player, in the left of the 3, I'd be the one looking to get across. The argument to say, has Sanchez got to track the fullback? That is the big question. Has Sanchez been brought to track runners in the left-back position for most of the first half? I'm not so sure he has. I think as a midfield player there, Matic the question would be, has Matic got the legs to keep getting out there? So if you're the left side of a 3 in there, I think you've got to help out there and let Sanchez be the free spirit up there. But he's worked hard for the team, Sanchez. He kept coming back, so he's probably average position would have been in a left midfield position. Sanchez.
When did he come back, Sam? I don't remember seeing him come back.
He come back a few times, Scoresy, but as a midfielder there.
I would think I just think you turns it when you're under the cosh like they were today, and Huddersfield had more possession early on. You just become, as far as I'm concerned, you just become a 5 across midfield. Sanchez is back alongside the 3, and Matt is back, and Lukaku's there. And I thought they pinpointed that, and you could see he didn't fancy chucking back. Yeah. United got the result and they're in the draw.
They were 3 for 2 in there. They were 3 for 2, so it was 3 for 2. We're outnumbering Huddersfield, right? So they had Ince as a free spirit. So if you're the left midfielder and you've got 3 for 2, surely you've got to get across.
Well, that's up to the manager. We don't know what the manager said, do we? We don't know if he said Sanchez just leave him, you just stay, you just half cheat, and Matic, you be the one to get across. But I don't think Matic was the right person for that job. He hasn't really got the legs anymore to do that. If you saw in the second half, he was almost playing as a left back. Yeah. He almost played with 2 left backs because they recognised the problem, and Sanchez almost played as a centre forward.
I don't think you should do that all the time. I just think when you're under pressure for 10 minutes, because they had the ball all the time, and we're coming down this flank all the time, you just say, right, we're going to go to a 5, stop them playing, and then once you get a little bit of a foothold, then you become a 3 again. Then we go 3 and 3.
Let me put this to you then. So if this was Man City, so I've seen Rashford playing for Manchester United. He's in the left back or right back position more than he's forward. It's Martial. I think in this side under Mourinho, they're that bothered about going backwards, whereas Man City, those players are forward. So you've got Fernandinho, you've got players in there, Kevin De Bruyne.
Because they're in possession all the time, Sam. Today United couldn't get in
Manchester
position.
United against Huddersfield.
But today they couldn't get in position. Yeah, we have to say we had to give Huddersfield credit because they didn't allow United, who played probably 3 holding midfield players in a space of a little 10-yard area, McTominay, Carrick and Matic, they just couldn't get on the ball. They just couldn't control
I wouldn't necessarily have a go at United today.
No,
I know, because you have to give the respect to the other team who, you know, they had a really good game today, didn't they, Huddersfield? They played really well.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, if you're in control of the play, if your midfield players are in control of the play, Sanchez can go to the left wing.
Do whatever he wants,
Would it bother you playing in a team with Sanchez playing like that?
Would it bother me?
Yeah.
Again, it depends what the manager wants.
Yeah.
And depends how much possession you've got of the ball. If you've got the ball more times than, and they did when he played, you can play with wingers and nice and wide and open the pitch up. But once you're under pressure from the other team, there's times when you have to go, right, everybody get in, and let's just see this 10-15 minute period out, and then we'll beat them. When they get tired, then we'll take over. And they did, United. They weren't at the best, but they were just really clinical this evening.
I'll tell you one, if I was a left-hand side midfielder like Matic, I wouldn't like it.
No,
you'd be on to Sanchez all the time to get back with him.
And Luke Shaw.
Especially, but they're not very vocal, they're very quiet players, aren't they? They're the ones that need to get back, because all the problems that were caused with the right hand side, okay, they've won the game 2-0 and it was quite comfortable in the end, but the problems the first 20 minutes with the right hand side with nobody going back with him.
But the fact that they raided so many times, that's why Chris Smalling was so important today, and of course he had a great game.
Brilliant.
And in all of this, we're talking about Huddersfield playing so well. Let's very briefly just show you Huddersfield's forthcoming fixtures, because actually, Robbie, the next few games will determine their future in the Premier League. Look at that: West Brom, Swansea, Palace, Newcastle. That's it for them.
Yeah, those are the games. The Spurs game, I don't think they'll get anything there, but the West Brom, Swansea, Palace, Newcastle, if they can win those games or get points out of those, great chance of staying up.
Right. All right, thanks, gentlemen. I enjoyed that chat. That was really interesting.